And hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk. If you were with us earlier, once again, I apologize for the situation. I've been having issues with the Wi-Fi all day today. I apologize about that. We are going live right now, recapping the Senior Bowl again. I don't want to go too long because I'd already been talking about this beforehand, but overall, a quick summary of the Jets Senior Bowl in Mobile. I thought the Jets did an unbelievable job with their as a coaching staff. You heard from the media and from a lot of scouts that they praised the way the Jets handled practice, how they developed players, and really they treated it like a game situation, how they would prepare for a week, how they did in the game. And again, I thought the national players that they coached looked very good. I thought that they played very well. There was a lot to like in for the Jets, but again, the Senior Bowl, it's the first stop in the draft process. And overall, I thought the Jets did an unbelievable job. I thought that they did an incredible job of going out there and making sure that they are really looking for players that fit their scheme. Again, they're doing things like to focus on their scheme. They were looking at how people fit within their scheme. Again, they're not going to share all the little details of that screen but again, I just really like the way that they handled the practices. You heard that the Jets were really lauded for that. And again, I just feel like you look at teams that have the Senior Bowl, they tend to do better because of this hands-on action. And really, to me, I've said this before. I think it's more important when we talk later in the draft, and if there's a toss-up between a player, you're going to see the Jets lean toward taking the guy that they had in the Senior Bowl just because they've seen how he practices. Again, like Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, they're looking to change the culture. They want guys that are football players. Like, this is what they do, this is what they love to do, and this is what they want to spend all their time and energy on. And you can really tell in these situations who really loves football, who really loves the preparation side of football, and who really fits the culture that they're trying to build. Now, again, the problem is I don't really think that any of these guys are a top 10 pick in the upcoming draft. I just really don't. Unfortunately for the Jets, I think they're going to try to trade out, but I'll be fascinated to see can they trade out a 4 through 10. And to me, the Senior Bowl was important for the Jets in the sense of another huge factor that's not really being talked about, but again, it does really impact how you prepare for the draft. And again, uh, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make sure everything is working with the feed right now, just because again, we had that issue beforehand. We started the first live stream. So if you're joining us, thank you for joining us. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, the chat is open. Would love to hear from you guys, what your thoughts are on the Jets at the Senior Bowl. Uh, there, which prospects did you really like and that stood out to you? Because you guys, especially Jets Twitter, has been very vocal about how they have handled how they've been handling things down in Mobile. And look, I really like the way that they've done how they've handled everything, and I've been really impressed with the Jets. So again, guys, chat's open, but I'm going to get to the top 10 prospects and in a little bit. These are the top 10 prospects I think the Jets will have a big eye on going forward, not only because of what they did in Mobile, but because of how the Jets staff interacted with them. But I want to talk about the quarterbacks. And man, I'll say this: the Jets lucked out; they didn't need a quarterback this year. Um, and a good and a bad thing happened with the quarterbacks in Mobile. And I'll start with the negative on the positive. Is I don't think any quarterback really wowed people. I think Malik Willis looked the best in the game. I think he looks like the kid with the most upside in this draft because of the athleticism he brings to the table. But in some ways, as Jet fans, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, guys. I'd love to hear your opinions. But to me, a lot of Jet fans were secretly hoping that some of these guys would go crazy at the Senior Bowl, look unbelievable, build hype, because again, it would increase the trade value of the Jets' two first round picks, the fourth and the 10th pick. And you really didn't get that. The two quarterbacks that kind of stood out in this were Kenny Pickett and Willis. So Kenny Pickett stood out in the meeting rooms where they're asking a couple scouts, like, okay, which quarterback really did well behind the scenes in the meeting rooms? And basically, they all said the same thing. It was Kenny Pickett, dot, 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 by a wide margin. But then on the field, Malik Willis looked the most comfortable. He was able to make some plays with his legs, showed some decent touch. Again, like Kenny Pickett, no one really looked great in the game. There were some times where these quarterbacks looked accurate, looked decent. But then there was other times you're just like, I'm not sure. I mean, they look okay, but in some ways, I know a lot of Jet fans were taking this negatively, saying, okay, the quarterbacks were bad. This doesn't help us. But I try to spin it in a positive manner. Uh, and this is the thing I looked at, which is because this is such a thin quarterback class, and because it's a quarterback class where you don't have anyone really sticking out, does that in a weird way increase the value? Because maybe there's only one guy that teams in this draft think can be a franchise quarterback. And because of that scarcity, and because so many teams are going to need a quarterback in April, does that mean a quarterback's going to get pushed or someone's going to get very overdrafted? I mean, again, it also depends on who's around the Jets. If the Texans take a quarterback at 3, a team might say, shoot, Kenny Pickett's the only guy we have on our board. We have to go get him now and trade up to the Jets at 4. Or do the Giants, with their new coaching staff, decide that they want to take a shot on Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis at 5? Other teams get wind of that, and then they jump up to 4 where the Jets are. Or I mean, even at the 10th pick, let's say a quarterback doesn't go really in the top 9, and one of them sitting there, and one of the teams in the 20s goes, look, we're lucky. This is the only quarterback we think is a franchise guy. He's sitting there at 10. Look, we didn't want to trade more assets to get into the top 5. It's still a lot, but we feel more comfortable trading where they are now. So I do think that's an important factor to keep in mind with this quarterback class. Again, like, you would hope that these kids look great to create more of a buzz, but could that also have the opposite effect, is because there's so few buzz on some of these quarterbacks, and this is looking like the 2011 Jake Locker and a like quarterback class. Does a team go, we only have one guy on our board that we think is worth a first round pick, and if we don't get him, we're kind of screwed. So I do think that plays into it as well. But I do think there's 10 prospects that the Jets should check out. Again, guys, you can go check out the big board on richsportstalk.com. I'll put a link in the chat so you can go check that out. That will obviously be updated as we move through the Senior Bowl season. A lot of guys rising on my board from the Senior Bowl. So that is in the chat right now. But these are 10 prospects that for Jet fans to really keep an eye on. I'll start in order. The tight ends. Trey McBride had the touchdown. The Senior Bowl looked really good. Ron Milton called him meat and potatoes guy. He looked solid. Didn't do anything to hurt his value. I think he's still going to be the number 1 tight end on a lot of people's boards. He is on mine. Jeremy Ruckert, again, kind of a dark horse fan favorite now with, from Long Island, Jet fan growing up. But it was funny. Ron Milton really raved about him. Loved contact, great route runner. They said like he's got a lot that he can do. And I do think Ruckert, he came away from this weekend saying, okay, there's a lot of potential there. And I do think the Jets really love that potential and they see a lot in him. And I do think that there's a certain floor for McBride. I think Ruckert's got the higher ceiling. And I do think he showed a lot of ability, especially because, again, he didn't get showcased in that Ohio State offense. I do think that he's someone the Jets will definitely keep an eye on. So those 2 tight ends are someone to keep in play. Trevor Penning went viral for the pancake blocks he had. Joe Douglas spent considerable time talking to him. I think the Jets really love him, especially because of the versatility. He played left tackle, left guard, right tackle, the Senior Bowl. And there were times where, look, he dominated. There are some times, too, you can tell, like, he needs a little bit of work. Like, there's times people got underneath him for leverage, were able to push him back despite being 321 pounds. Someone put in the original chat, and I don't know if they're back yet, but I apologize again. We did have a live stream earlier, but of course the Wi-Fi cut out. It's been a rough morning. Wi-Fi didn't want to work early, then again, so we cut out. It's the Wi-Fi. I apologize. It's just not wanting to work today. I guess it's Monday. It's trying to take a Monday holiday off, but well, Uh, but Trevor Penning, someone that again could he be in play at 10? I think ten's high for him. I think he's more of a mid first round pick. Someone was asking, do you think he falls to the second round? I don't see that happening. But again, if the Jets can trade back, he's someone to definitely keep an eye on. That versatility. I don't think he can play left tackle, but I don't think the Jets want him to play left tackle this year. And we know about the whole Mekhi Becton situation. But again, if you start him at right guard or right tackle right away, I think he'll be more than up to the challenge. And again, I do think there's a lot of potential there. Two more offensive linemen, Zion Johnson. This is a kid I would really keep an eye on. And again, it's interesting because he was playing center, looked good at the center position. The Jets don't really need an interior offensive lineman per se. But again, Johnson to me is the best pure guard in this draft. He came into that looking like the best guard. He comes out of Mobile looking like the best guard. I actually think he's a better offensive line prospect than Trevor Penning at this point. He'll move up on my big board. Um, just looks solid. Like he's just a really good player, really good athlete. And the Jets coaches, they really liked him because they said he was the quickest to pick up the system. He really did well in the system, and they really liked the way he retained knowledge. And again, I just feel like he's going to be a 10, 12-year starter. I don't think he's as good as Elijah Vera Tucker was, obviously coming out last year. But again, teams are looking for a lot of the tackles that they can either move around or convert to guard. If Johnson's sitting there in the 20s, do not be shocked if we see the Jets do what they did last year for Elijah Vera Tucker and trade to get back into the first round and get him. Again, he can play a little bit center. Could he also, if they want to move on from Kyler McGovern in a year or two, play center? That's another possibility. But again, you don't necessarily might not love the tackle position, but if you can get two great guards that you feel are going to be stalwarts for the next 10 years, Elijah Vera Tucker and Zion Johnson, I do think it's something you consider. And then Cole Strange for Chattanooga. Really love this kid, great athleticism. To me, he's a second or third round pick. Again, played a little center, had some trouble snapping, but again, he's never played center before, so I appreciate the effort. Went viral because he had the best number in the single bar helmet down the middle. I mean, he gets the most style points from the Senior Bowl. Didn't get as viral like Trevor Penning. Uh, didn't have like just Johnson, just such a solid guard. But really, Strange had a very good week. If the Jets miss out on a guard early, maybe he's a guy they trade up for a late second round. A lot of things I really like about him. Good center of gravity. Look, just a really solid overall player. And again, Joe Douglas loves his offensive lineman. The biggest defensive standout at the Senior Bowl to me was Jermaine Johnson, the second from Florida State. Now, again, he's going to move up my big board. And of all the players that the Jets could take at 10, he might be someone to really look at for the 10th pick. Again, once we get past the two big pass rushers, there really isn't a home run draft pick. Again, I love David Ojoba from Michigan, but again, very raw prospect. You look, Johnson was one of the most highly recruited athletes, led the ACC in sacks. And look, he's a stout run defender. He really sets the edge. And I really said, like, look, a lot of the pass rushing wins he won on power. Like, I want to see more technique. I want to see more patience. And what you saw in Mobile is he's worked incredibly hard. And what a lot of scouts were saying is this is a kid that really hasn't reached his potential yet. And you were seeing in Mobile, like the use of the hands, the ability to get leverage. But more importantly, it was the start and stop ability. Like he's a guy that you would see do some counter rushes where one plays exploding off the line, the next he's got a little bit of a stutter step, pauses, and then hits it hard, gets up the field. To me, he's a kid that's going to really keep going up because he's just a solid all-around player, highly productive. And again, this is a draft that once we really get outside the top 5, I've said this, a lot of these prospects, there isn't a huge gap between player 5 and 45 on the big board. And you're going to see some guys go earlier than expected. And I wonder, does Johnson move up? Because again, Robert Saleh said it at the Senior Bowl when they were asked about the pass rush. And he said, look, the defensive line makes my secondary better and it makes my linebackers better. Read between the lines. They want to get that defensive line better. And really, there aren't a lot of edge rushers. I mean, David Ojobo could be someone, but again, set up a lot at Michigan, a little bit raw, great athleticism, better speed. But Johnson's just a good all-around player, good setting the edge, good at especially in run defense. I was surprised how good of a defensive end defense he plays in the run defense. I mean, a lot of times these defensive ends don't even want to play run defense, but he does that very well. So Johnson, again, like I was saying this, there really wasn't any guys I would say snuck in to the top 10 conversation, but I do think Johnson could be in play for the Jets at 10. Might seem early, but there isn't a lot of great pass rushers in this draft. And if the Jets feel he fits the system, he could be a guy to keep an eye on. Chad Muma, the linebacker for Wyoming, unbelievable, flying all over the field. What I saw in Wyoming, I'm incredibly high on him. I almost feel like he played himself out of the Jets because I would love to see him go to the third round, the Jets. I don't think the Jets want to use one of the top 4 picks on a linebacker. But if he's somehow there in the third round, you have to go up there and get there. I mean, Muma, unbelievable, great first step, great anticipation. And again, the thing I loved about Muma was the anticipation, reading the defense, incredibly smart. But another guy who also really stood out to me, also on the Jet team. Jets had a lot of high praise from him. And to me, this is the linebacker I almost think played over Muma, unfortunately, because again, I think Muma's going to go now earlier in the draft. But I do think the Jets want to get a linebacker on day 3. So Troy Anderson, I think, could be that guy. 6'3", 242 pounds, Montana State. He's a converted athlete. I mean, he was a running back tight end, but you look at the athleticism he had, looked unbelievable. He's only played linebacker 2 seasons, but he looked really good. And there's a couple drills. There's some very good video of him really reading, react, getting to the hole, making plays. But the other thing too is like, even if he made a mistake at the Senior Bowl, there was like 2 plays I saw where he got beat in coverage, but because of his speed and athleticism, he's able to close the gap and get back and not be out of position. So he's a kid I really like. And again, Muma's one of my favorites. I mean, I have Muma on top 50 on my big board, and I've actually gotten some people like, are you crazy? I don't think I look crazy now. But Anderson's a kid I really think could go in the top 100. So I do think in the 4th, 5th round, Jets could definitely be looking at him. Jalen Pitri, the safety from Baylor, again, really small and undersized at 5'10", but you saw it with the interception. You saw it all week. Unbelievable coverage skills. He can range sideline to sideline. Really, that's what the Jets want in their back end. They want safeties that can cover. They want safeties that can come up and make and play in the run game, but more importantly, they can cover sideline to sideline. They're not going to get bit deep. Showed unbelievable coverage skills, great anticipation. And again, I don't think he's going to go that high because like Lewis Seen, Battle, they're bigger safeties. And some of these teams are going to want bigger safeties. I don't necessarily the Jets care about the size of the safety. And I think he could be a guy that you can even get on day 3. Then Christian Watson. To me, like a lot, for some reason, I mean, he was voted by the players as the best receiver in the bowl. A lot of the analysts and scouts, like I kind of disagree because I kept seeing everyone saying like, "Oh, this receiver's a big winner, this receiver," and no one was talking about Christian Watson. I was like, no one saw the great catch he made in the game. No one saw the ability they had to break away from guys. I mean, this kid was 6'4", 220 pounds, but runs incredibly smoothly. Great separation, winning 50-50 balls, and I'm thinking to myself, could he be in play with the Jets in the 2nd round? Again, there's a lot of receivers in this draft. I do think a couple of them could fall the Jets in the 2nd round, but do the Jets like Watson a lot? Because again, I really love the fluidity, really good athlete, was able to pull away from people. And again, I just thought he looked unbelievable and did an impressive job. And I only think he's going to get more buzz as we get close to the draft. And the other one was the UTSA corner Tariq Woolen. Again, converted player, but was the fastest player at the Senior Bowl, ran 22 miles an hour, but 6'3", 200-pound corner that can run like that. Again, like I thought he was going to be a steal on day 3, But the way he played in Mobile, the athleticism he's shown again, there's not a lot of corners in this draft. They're over 6'1". And if you're looking for a tall press corner, I mean, he might be someone that jumps now into day 2 of the draft, but someone to keep an eye on. And as always, guys, you can always reach out in the chat. Apologize for the technical issues earlier in the show. If you were in the previous live stream, I apologize for losing you again. The Wi-Fi has been absolutely horrible today. Carlos Monticello. Hey, Rich. Was wrong about Chenmu. Would definitely consider taking him. Thanks for that. Trevor Penning is nice, especially the pancake blocks will surely scare opposition next year. Again, I think people love the nastiness. I think that was the other thing the Jets love is like he was trying to get in fights every other play, pissing people off. Again, like you want that attitude, that swagger. So I do really think he is someone the Jets will keep an eye on. He looks stiff operating reach pull blocks. What do you think? Again, he's a bigger guy. We also have to remember too, like he's playing up in competition. The other thing too is I don't think he got super comfortable either because he was playing 4 positions at the Senior Bowl. So again, he was showing the versatility, but I also think he does look stiff at times. Again, a lot of it's just technique. He's coming from an FCS school. I'm not sure how much of the coaching he got there. And look, the Jets might look at him as a guy saying, look, he looks this good now, but with our coaching staff, when we develop him, he could be even more unbelievable. I mean, I think they look at it and go, okay, he's a raw prospect, but he's got the size, he's got the physicality, he's got the nastiness. We can teach him a lot, but I do think he's someone that definitely keep up. The way JD and Sal hit on draft picks last year, I would rather they gain more picks than use the picks move up. I agree. And to me, that's where the value in this draft is. I don't think, even with the pass rushers, I don't think there's an A-plus prospect. The safest pick is Kyle Hamilton, but again, I don't think the Jets need a safety and a safety of his caliber. Again, I don't think you need a guy like that because I think the Jets are going to sign a big-time free agent that would basically be Kyle Hamilton. And the other thing too is they have so many. I think there's so many really good players in this draft that realistically, almost in a perfect world, I think the Jets would love to trade both their first round picks, get an extra pick in the second, third round, and move back to the mid first round where they can get a Penning, where they can get a Jermaine Johnson, where they could get a Zion Johnson potentially between those 3 guys, and then have the capital in the second round to try to get a receiver that fell, a tight end that fell. I mean, if they get 3 second-round picks, could all of a sudden they go get 2 tight ends? I mean, that's not out of the question either. It's Snoopy. What do you think about the Drake London rumors? Can you be slightly more specific? Because I've heard a bunch of them. I've also heard the Kayvon Thibodeau rumors this week too, which don't really scare me. If he's there at 4 and I'm the Jets, like again, unless it's really blatantly obvious and the Jets really are concerned that he isn't going to give an effort or that there's a huge chance that he's not going to really care. I don't think that's him though. That's the only way I'd pass on him. And again, if he's somehow sitting there at 4 and the Jets don't want him, I do believe there'll be at least one team that will want to trade up to get him at 4. So I mean, that was the big buzz out there. Is like I saw that they were reporting that he could fall outside the top 5. Again, we never know, but rumors are that Joe Douglas loves, according to scouts, the Senior Bowl. I mean, he could love Drake London, but again, a lot of it depends on that. London obviously wasn't at the Senior Bowl. I mean, a lot can change, like because he had the injury this year. Like, do they go and do they find out the medicals don't look good? I mean, that could impact it. Again, London, it all depends on the offense. I think it depends on who they think is the best fit. Again, London, in some ways, the Jets are missing that big explosive receiver that can go up and get the 50-50 balls. But he's a little bit of a rough route runner. I wonder if, though, again, like Traylon Burks to me he seems to fit the system slightly better. Again, I think London's got a bit of a higher ceiling. I think London's got the highest ceiling of any receiver in this draft just because of the athleticism and the freakish athletic ability. But again, I mean, I think a lot of the rumors too, like, don't forget too, a lot of the rumors that come out also is trying to drive player value. Like, could the Jets also be saying they love Drake London because they want a team to try to trade with them at 10? Or that could be a situation too. Like, could the Jets try to be also putting out rumors to increase values of players so other teams want to trade like for their 10th pick? Because again, I do think they want to trade out of that 10th spot. Um, from what I heard, London had clean break and should be good. Again, like that's great. But again, like he wasn't at the Senior Bowl, so a lot of it's going to come down to the combine and also to his pro day. But again, I don't think you can rule out London. I don't think you can rule out receiver. And again, I feel like there's three caveats to what the Jets select a player this year. It's going to come down to a, does he help Zach Wilson this offense? Because I do think they're going to lean more offense than defense, just because they of the importance of Zach Wilson's development. And the other thing is, did we coach him at the Senior Bowl or not? Like, if it comes down to like really, we have player A and player B, we have pretty much the same grade, but we coached this player at the Senior Bowl and we know what he's like and we know he fits with how our philosophy. I think that that player will get the nod. Yeah, JD spent a lot of time with Penning. I almost feel like if Joe Douglas, like this is like one of his perfect guys, because again, Joe Douglas is an offensive lineman. I think it's really the nasty streak and the ability to play multiple positions. Like he can play left tackle, but the Jets, George Fant will be the left tackle before Penning is. I think Penning could eventually be a left tackle, but I just think they're going to put him at the because I think Becton's going to probably start at the right tackle spot, but you can start him at the right guard position and then eventually kick him out to tackle once he gets more comfortable with the NFL speed. But again, Penning, I think 10 is again too early, but it's also a weird draft too, where I just feel like a lot of guys are going to get drafted early. I'd rather have Icky again. Now they're saying Iggy's the favorite to be the number one pick. I mean, there's a chance the Jets, like when the Jets pick, like two of the top three offensive linemen are going to be gone. Um, Again, it all comes down to who the Texans pick. I don't think the Lions are going offensive line. But again, I mean, you just look, Jacksonville just hired Doug Peterson, offensive coach, great quarterback coach. What's the purpose of him? Is to get Trevor Lawrence to play better. And again, will a great defensive lineman help a better defense? Sure. But you know what helped Trevor Lawrence a lot better is having a better offensive line because he has to face two really good defenses in that division every year. So I do think an offensive lineman um will go there. Joe Campione, Douglas will not give a single clue on who he's picking. Again, that's the other thing too, which I've liked about Douglas and his regime is, under Gase and McCagnon, like the rumors would come out, and you'd hear a lot more rumors. I really do think Douglas is going to play it close to the vest. But again, like I do think that the Jets have dropped some hints of who they like. Offensive linemen, I think the two they like the most out of Mobile were, of course, Penning, but also don't sleep on Zion Johnson, the guard from BC. The Jets, I think, really like him. Again, he has the versatility to play center. And if he's sitting there, I believe he'll be sitting there in the 20s. I think the Jets will do what they did with Elijah Vertucker. If he's sitting there like 24, 25, I could see the Jets packaging like one of the second round picks and a later pick and like one of the fours to go up and get him. I really could see him. Again, they really liked him. So I do think he's someone to really keep an eye on. Again, like there's other linemen later, but I do think that he's a guy to keep an eye on. And in some ways, if I was to say of all the Senior Bowl players who could go at 10, I almost feel, and again, he's not offense, but I almost feel like if it came down between these two players, Jermaine Johnson the second and Penning at 10, I almost feel like Johnson, even though he's a defense player, gets the nod because the Jets and Robert House said they need better pass rush help. And Johnson, to me, you can make the case now he might be the third best pass rusher because, again, a lot of the guys like David Joba, they're freakish athletes, but you wonder how much technique they're going to need. You wonder how much coaching they're going to need. And Johnson, to me, is looks like he's an ascending player. Showed a lot of good pass rushing moves at the Senior Bowl. So we'll see what happens with him. Johnson's greater than Penning. Yeah, I think Jermaine Johnson is a better player than him too. But yeah, and I think a great Snoopy brings up a great point too. Like even last year, like all the insiders were saying that Wilson was going to the Jets, and I do think that the Jets also played close to the vest. Like they really, even when they traded Sam Darnold, I think it became clear that it was going to be Wilson, but you still didn't know until the last day. Like, could Justin Fields sneak in there? So, I mean, that was someone to keep an eye up. So again, guys, make sure to drop a like, hit the subscribe button. Again, the top 50 big board will be updated. That link is in the chat earlier. If you want to check out, we'll have an updated one when I get a chance. I know the Senior Bowl, it's going to really mix it up. You can give us a follow on Twitter at Rich Sports Talk. But again, I thought the Jets had a great Senior Bowl. You even heard that the Jets coaching staff got rave reviews on how they handle the players, how they handle practices. I even heard like a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, the way the Lions handled practice was incredible." But no, like those are the players I really think the Jets should keep an eye on, like Troy Anderson, a linebacker, day 3, Jalen Pitri, the safety, Christian Watson, Tariq Woolen are guys to really keep an eye on. But again, like could Jermaine Johnson now be a top 10 pick? I really do believe that in a class where there's really not a lot of great pass rushers, he can make the case to be the third one. Led the ACC in pass rushing, and again, I feel like he's also a really good run defender. So even if the pass rush numbers aren't there the first year, he's going to be an every down defensive end. And you put him on the outside with potentially Carl Lawson. I mean, one kid I really love was Travis Jones, the defensive tackle from UConn. I mean, he was bullying players, but again, I kept saying to myself, I know people project him as a nose tackle, but a part of me is like, I still would love to see the Jets maybe get him in the second round and pair him next to Quinnen and just have those 300 pounders in the middle just wreaking havoc. But again, I said this before, and I just think it's going to be true. I almost feel like the Jets in my newest mock draft will come out. Like most of the picks are going to be offense because, again, it's an offensive league. The rules are going toward offense. And again, they need Zach Wilson to work. So I think the Jets are going to sacrifice their defense for a little bit and hope that they can scheme up the defense, find some guys in free agency, and make Zach Wilson work. Because again, they'd rather come out next season with 8 or 9 wins, miss the playoffs, but say, okay, we got the quarterback all figured out, and we just have to improve this defense. Than the other situation, which is, wow, our defense looks amazing, but still not. Still not completely sure about the quarterback position. I keep laughing. I keep seeing all these mock drafts taking Kyle Hamilton number 4. And again, like that was another rumor I saw too. Like, oh, the Jets love Kyle Hamilton. Again, I almost feel like the Jets are hoping that a team really loves Hamilton at 4 and just wants to come up and get him. Another player too, and again, I mentioned this earlier too, is it's almost like it's a good and a bad thing, which is was hoping that the quarterbacks would play great at the Senior Bowl to help their value. But in a weird way, because their value is so bad right now, does that actually in a weird way help the Jets? Because since there's so few good quarterbacks, is a team going to get so desperate, like saying, look, we have one guy we feel is a franchise quarterback in this draft. Like we have to go up and get him. Like because if we don't get him, we're screwed. So I do think that that could be something as well. Who do you go about? How do we go about getting number 1 in your opinion? Realistic. Again, I still think the Jets are going to look at the trade value market and the free agent market. Again, I think Devontae Adams is a long shot, but if who knows with Aaron Rodgers, I do think the Jets could pay him the most money. Allen Robinson's a free agent. Calvin Ridley, if that checks out, could the Jets swing picks for him? There's again, I think a lot can happen now between now and free agency. So it'll be interesting to see. It was funny because I was going to suggest the Jets look to New Orleans to get a certain running back, but after yesterday with Alvin Kamara, I don't think that's going to happen. Malik Will's stock rising. I mean, I kind of disagree, Snoopy, because I had him number one on my board. A lot of people didn't. To me, he was the best quarterback. Because again, I said this about Malik Willis. I look for like when I want a quarterback in the first round, there has to be something that wows me. There has to be one aspect of this game, like, okay, that's different. And really, Malik Willis is the only quarterback in this draft that has a skill like that, and that's his running ability. I don't think anyone else has like wow accuracy, wow pre-snap. I just don't see it. I see a lot of good. I just don't see great. And that's really the only great I see. And that's why I have Willis the number one quarterback on my board. And again, they said in the meeting room the best one was definitely Pickett. But again, like you saw Pickett struggle with accuracy, inconsistent throws. So I mean, it's all up there. And again, I'm interested to see how the Jets address it. And again, it'll be interesting to see how the other teams address the quarterback. We are definitely not taking Hamilton. We don't value safe. But again, I've been saying that for months. I don't see them doing that. I see on the BYU Red poster, Zach and Zach. Zach and Zach. Is that like a show on Disney Channel now? The Jets will trade prolific number one. I did not hear that. I get the feeling too, like I feel the Jets' number one receiver, and I've been kind of against the grain on this a little bit too. Is I see all these mock drafts with the Jets taking a receiver. I just feel like the Jets want to get the number one receiver in free agency or in the draft. I just don't see I don't see them drafting guys again. I almost feel like, and I've said this before, like when I had them mocking Chris Olave in my last mock draft, is like I don't see that huge of a difference between the first receiver and the sixth or the seventh. Like in some ways, like if you ask me, like, do you want Drake London with the 10th pick or do you want Chris Olave with the 35th pick? I'd take Chris Olave because I feel like I'm getting better value. And I don't think any of these receivers are really top 10 or even top 15 guys. I think they'll be good receivers. I think they will help the quarterback, but I don't see a guy I'm like, wow, that's significant. Um, that's a significant upgrade. I just, I just don't see that. So, again, guys, just checking the chat. Any other questions that you had for us? Again, appreciate all the love and support. I apologize again for not being on at 9:30. Wi-Fi didn't work. Then started the first live stream. That Wi-Fi didn't work, so we're kind of just on living on a wing and a prayer right now that this Wi-Fi holds out for the next couple of minutes. But again, guys, I promise you the big board, it will be updated. We'll have more New York Jets content. So make sure you subscribe. And again, if you know Jet fans that love good Jets content, let us about the channel. Let them follow us on Twitter at Rich Sports Talk. Again, so much to talk about going forward. And nope, Stefano, that was my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is terrible. I tried to reboot it. I tried mobile hotspot. I got to the point I wanted to pull the wires out and just it was me. It just didn't want to work. It still thinks it's the weekend, even though it's Monday. Thought it was a holiday or 3-day weekend, but I'm like, no, you gotta work today, Wi-Fi. Sorry about that. I gotta work, you gotta work. So but yeah, like those are my 10 prospects. Who I thought really stood out the Senior Bowl again. Chad Muma almost played himself. I think he played himself out with the Jets just because of how good he played. But again, I like Troy Anderson, the linebacker out of Montana State. I thought he played really well. Again, I think there's a lot. Again, to me, the Senior Bowl is incredibly valuable because you get guys that, especially to me, it's more valuable to get guys days 2 and 3 because you get that upfront and personal touch. And I do think you're going to see a lot of guys, especially day 2 and day 3, that were at the Senior Bowl, the Jets will select because they've been able to coach them. I do think that the Senior Bowl doesn't necessarily help you at the top of the draft, but definitely helps you later on in the draft. What do you think about Mike MC in Miami? I hope for the best for him. I don't want any coach to personally fail, but again, I feel like for Miami, there was better candidates out there. And I thought that, again, I always say this, like, everyone always wants to make a move. Everyone always thinks the grass is greener on the other side. But if you're going to do a move like they did, you have to make sure you get someone better. And again, now you're getting a coordinator who you hope will be a good head coach when you had a good head coach in your building, a head coach that beat Belichick 4 times in the last 2 years and had a winning record with Tua. And a part of me gets it that I know the criticism Flores was firing the OCs and not being an offensive person, but again, it's hard to find a good head coach. I mean, their defense was great. How's their defense going to be going forward? And you hope he's going to, if you're a Miami fan, you hope he's going to develop Tua. I will say this though, they do a very good job in the run game. I do think you're going to see Miami become a more run heavy team to try and take the pressure off of Tua. But overall, it just feels like today it's a downgrade. Again, we won't know until we see next year. I mean, I still think Sirianni's a bit of a weird choice in Philadelphia, but he somehow got them to the playoffs. But I personally, I'm a huge Brian Flores supporter and fan. Unbelievable. He's a great coach, but even better guy. And I just feel horrible for what happened to him in Miami. He did not deserve to lose his job. And I think most people feel the same way. And it's unfortunate what he's going through now because I don't think he deserves a job in the NFL. I don't think that there's any question about that. But again, I just think that did an episode. I laugh. I did an episode like 2 weeks ago about how the Jets are when the offseason because of all the changes in the AFC East. And since then, Josh McDaniels has left New England. Miami's got a new head coach. Brian Daboll's left Buffalo. Buffalo's lost their GM. Again, like I don't know again, I think Josh Allen's still gonna be great, but is he gonna be the same kind of greatness without Brian Dable? But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. More Jets content coming your way this week. Make sure you subscribe. Great Senior Bowl for the Jets. Think it was huge for them. I thought they did an unbelievable job this week. But of course, we'll have more content coming to you. Got to head out now. But again, make sure you subscribe to miss any of our latest content. Thank you again for joining us here on a Monday only on Rich Sports Talk. Thank you guys so much for joining us.